It was always going to go this way, wasn't it? Over the last 2 years, the All Blacks have slowly slipped from World Rugby's own personal dictator to merely the primus inter pares, the first amongst equals in a World Cup where every eye is aimed at their pack. England, on the other hand, have been quietly building, waiting amongst equals for a chance to show that they might be more than that. The last year has been a revolution in rugby. Power is more even-handed than ever, not concentrated in one hemisphere or even one team. Rugby has become democratized. And Saturday was the moment the King's head fell, and of course, who more fitting to do the beheading than the home of the empire that spread rugby in the first place? England were fantastic as they stripped them down from the mighty All Blacks to simply New Zealand, a country best known as a hiking spot for orcs. So, just how do they do this, and is there anything South Africa can do to stop them this weekend? Things started with an inevitability as a naive-looking New Zealand let England do exactly what they wanted to in an opening 90 seconds that left them 7-0 down. It's an absolutely superb try. It's just perfectly worked. It's almost, just be incredibly potential for a moment, art. Most tries come from misreads or mistakes, whether forced or not, but there's only one error from an All Black in this try, as Mwanga lets himself get flat foot on Daly and then misses the tackle. Everything else is just sheer precision from England. They deconstruct an opponent as though they weren't even there. Because this isn't just what England wanted, this is what England do. England score early tries. In the last 18 months, England have played 18 matches. In 12 of them, they scored a try in the first 10 minutes. In 9, it was the first 5. In 4, they scored before the end of the first minute, before the clock hit 2. In order to pinpoint exactly what it is the All Blacks got wrong and exactly what it is England are doing in these opening stages, it's worth looking at the 6 in which they didn't score early. Now, 4 of them have something in common. The opposition won the toss and chose to kick off. This also allows you to discount or downgrade a lot of the other games where it took England slightly longer to score. For example, it took them 6 minutes to score against the USA just because it was McGinty kicking off, and that forced England to make an extra 50 yards in order to get over the line. On only 2 occasions in the last 18 matches has a team lost the toss and still managed to keep England scoreless in the opening stage of the game. These are also 2 of only 3 games out of those 18 that England lost. And in both cases, this was Wales. This means 3 things. Number 1, if England get momentum, if they score this early try, it's almost impossible to pull back. You've good as lost the game before the 5th minute. Number 2, thanks to Handré Bloody Pollard, England will now go this World Cup without having to face their biggest danger, the one team that seems to have worked out how to stop them building this momentum. Wales might not be the best team in the competition, but they're the only team that's shown they have England's number. But, number 3, the Springboks do, in Wales, have a blueprint of how to stop England building this early momentum. And it was one the All Blacks failed to read. So let's contrast how Wales played the situation in the Six Nations to what the All Blacks did at the weekend and what basically every other team has done since. In both cases, England send the kick-off deep into the corner. There was some trickery on Saturday with this whole forward Farrell thing, but the result is largely the same. They pin the opposition back into both a literal and metaphorical corner, trapping them on the side where their scrum half is of the wrong-footedness to clear effectively. England want you to kick it back to them, and they want you to make as little distance as possible doing so. So New Zealand boot it back, they boot it into touch. Safety first. Ireland do the same thing here. They kick the ball into touch, thinking this is the safest possible option. They get a chance to set their defence, set everything properly, be ready for the England attack. Except England are expecting this clearance, so expecting a line-out. Jamie George is off the pitch, ready to throw in before the ball is, before the line-out's set. England were expecting this clearance, they're expecting the line-out, and they have their attack set super quickly. They then just play it a million miles an hour until boom! Try for Johnny May. The All Blacks do the same. They put the ball out, but George is waiting. England are expecting it, they're fully set. They don't need to call anything, they know what they're doing. Less than a minute later, boom. Try for Manu Tuolangi. England know exactly what they're doing, they know where the ball is going, for several phases in advance before the line-out is even called. They know exactly what's going on. This is all pre-planned. There's no conversations going on. Jones has arranged every phase before that toss even took place. And yet the England players are good enough and organised enough that they can jam off changes comfortably, such as Daly here when the opportunity arises. The line-out is the launch pad. So Wales instead kept it in field. They kick it long but not out. England tried to launch then a full force for the polar at Wales in order to get them going forward, but they've sent the VD up to meet them and just say hello, just, pick him up from the airport. This means Wales have denied England a chance to set. They've quelled any momentum, and they've stopped them having the opportunity to play off a broken field. Scotland were the only other team to keep the ball in field off this clearance, but they allowed England to get going forward, and then they couldn't align their defence quickly enough, so England do all of this bullshit, and they chuck it down, they do passing and that, and then boom! try for Jack Nowell. New Zealand were looking for the safest possible option, but unknowingly they walked right into a trap. By giving England a set piece, they handed them total control. They can put all their pieces exactly where Jones wants them and then dictate the tempo. Youngs isn't even looking up at half these phases, he's just following through a preordained plan. England are so much more dangerous in the opening throws of a test match because a coach can't script 80 minutes. Here they're doing exactly what Jones wants. They're playing to his structure, to his plan, incredibly precisely, more precisely than you ever see any other team play ever, because those opening few stanzas are basically written by Eddie Jones in the hope this will provide some context for the rest of the match. And you can bet these particular opening passages against the All Blacks were scribbled in Eddie's notebook for at least a good few years. This has been a plan a long time out. There was one other big difference in how Wales did things. They just threw numbers into the breakdown. There were 7 phases between line-out and try for England on Saturday, and New Zealand only contested 2 of them. And only on one of them, this one with Ardy Surveyor, was there any difference made to the board? Did they slow it down at all? Most of them, they just stood off and set. England here don't need to think. They know exactly what they're doing. They're playing to a preordained plan. This allows them to play at an extraordinary, superhuman pace that you'll never come across otherwise. It's genuinely amazing because they don't have to make a decision. They're just playing off a plan. And that makes it almost literally impossible to defend because the defender's having to think when the attacker isn't. The only way to stop it is to do so at source, to slow it right down. This means taking the chance of throwing a few defenders into the breakdown, taking them out of your line, when yes, it may be a lost cause, but if it delays it by just a second, that makes them just that little bit less extraordinary. But the All Blacks didn't do this, and England were able to complete one of the sharpest, fastest, and most perfect passes of play you'll ever see. It's easy to criticise the All Blacks for not executing in literally the only way we've ever seen anyone stop it, but at the same time, this is just a genius passage to play by one of the best coaches in the world, and it's worked 12 out of 14 times he's tried it. And it's not a surprise that Hansen hasn't prepared for something he's only ever going to come up against once in one game. It's just a shame that one game knocked him out of the World Cup. However, there are a few other little oddities and things that Hansen did and didn't pull out of his big black sock. Last week, I picked up on an amazing new innovation from the All Blacks as they evolved their set structure on the fly. Here, they only really had one chance to do this, right at the start of the second half. The entire rest of the game, they were just starved of territory or possession, and they simply tried to play too much too early. It's not about earning the right to go wide, it's about simply just knowing sometimes it isn't right to go wide. This is made even worse by one tiny little beat in the first half. Much was made of Hansen's decision to drop mega bastard Sam Cane and instead hit the maximum Barrett's panic button, bringing in Locke Scott to give them 2 smoking Barretts. The main argument was that this bolstered their line out, but the All Blacks simply didn't throw it to Barrett. So I think instead there's actually an alternate explanation. During this attack, the All Blacks run a fairly standard shape. Forward pods, Beauden Barrett at the back as a link man, then he ships it onto the quicker boys. A little bit of deception in there, using the forwards as a screen, and Beauden's always a threat, so you have to kind of watch him before it gets out to where it's going. Except it wasn't Beauden, it was the other Barrett, it was Scott! By bringing in Scott, they allowed Bodie to float wider, slot into the attack where he chose. He's not wasted by bringing other players onto the ball, he's able to just attack and be dangerous himself. Scott Barrett is a skillful player, capable of linking in as a first receiver, and he has the added bonus that no other forward in the world has, of looking a bit like someone set a photo of the most dangerous runner in World Rugby as the desktop photo and clicked stretch. This, I figure, was the real reason Scotty B was in the team, that they probably had a couple of other players that would have used him as a dummy Beauden. Except he was then brought off at half time. The All Blacks hit upon one really cool, potentially interesting little innovation. Nobody even noticed, and then they just discarded it. Having struggled generally though against the England defence, New Zealand reached for almost everything in that big black sock. If they'd watched how England defend out wide during this tournament, they'd have known this kick designed to catch South Africa's wide defence out wouldn't have worked. But instead, in sheer panic at being outplayed, they tried it anyway. It's an accurate enough kick by Moanga, but it's a bad call and it surrendered the ball. As things went on and they made no ground over and over, they just panicked and started playing looser and looser. At points, it was almost like watching a sevens attack, except instead of defending against a tired 6-man drift, it was an aggressive 15-a-side World Cup semi-finalist standard team. Now, part of the reason that this was such a great matchup is because these are two teams with sheer arrogance flowing through their veins. I don't mean this as a criticism or a bad thing at all. This is elite level sport, not a first date. Everyone hates England and everyone loves seeing the world champions toppled. And this has bred two overlapping but quite different mindsets. The All Blacks approach every game thinking they're going to win. England approach every game thinking the opposition is going to lose. The masterstroke of the Eddie Jones angle has been to absolutely embrace the fact that everybody hates England, whereas Stuart Lancaster was determined to turn this around into making them a fluffy, lovable side full of blokes you wouldn't mind going for a pint with. For anyone who isn't an England fan, the Eddie Jones team is just full of absolute bastards you just sooner throw your pint over. Sure, the Dove Men adverts try to teach us otherwise, but on the field, Courtney Lawes is a borderline thug. For all his educated poet antics, Maro Toje is closer to a Vogon than Vonnegut. I think Owen Farrell has been consistently one of the top 3 players in the world for years now, but this smirk typified that he's essentially a pantomime villain anywhere outside England. This is not me having a go. This is an attribute to England and one Jones has worked on and is very aware of. He wants his players to be annoying shithousers. He wants that edge. Because this England team is arrogant in all the best ways. They treat each opposition with respect, but never admiration or awe. There isn't even a "this is our chance to beat so-and-so" attitude. England are just there to beat you, and they don't care. Now else matters. They don't care who you are, how it make you feel. However, impressive though the performance was, England were in complete control for 37 minutes yet only scored once. England were in complete control in the second half and yet let New Zealand get back within 7. But whereas a team like Wales are used to coming from behind, they're used to being shit in the first half and then managing to scrape a win out their arse, New Zealand have no reference point for this. They don't know how to win without dominating, for at least spells of the game. England were fantastic, their defence was brilliant, and their attack was brutal when they wanted it to be, but they didn't quite score as many points as they should have. You question how a side better able to manage and calmly plot a comeback might deal with England, and also whether South Africa are a team capable of doing that. They're certainly one to never be outmatched or outmuscled. The Springboks may be far from the most complete team in the competition, but they're by far the hardest to dominate. This sets the final up quite nicely. The big butchers coming out are the crafty new kings. A team that would need to be dethroned a whole week before they even gain the crown. Whether or not it goes the way it was always going to go, this final is going to be incredibly intense, and no doubt an occasion worthy of the revolution this World Cup seems to have sparked. Thank you for watching that. Sorry it took so long to get through, so I couldn't get it up during the week. I had problems with Wi-Fi, which meant I couldn't get hold of the footage to actually edit it and actually begin the work in the process, even once I'd analysed and written the script, which was a bit of a nightmare. And then beyond that, just general sort of exhaustion from being in the tournament, because I have recorded this after the finals have been played, after the Rugby World Cup 2019 is over, so congratulations to the Springboks. It does make my video on them actually look kind of prophetic, as well as my one where I said, I can see a piece of the trophy. I now have seen it, so I have that vision even more emblazoned on my eyelids. And beyond that, I'm going to try and catch up on all of the other games that I missed. I did, whilst, trying to get the footage together and everything for this one, put up 2 videos on YouTube in the last couple of days that are, me playing both a preview Rugby 20, which is coming soon, and then the final on Rugby Challenge 3, that's up on YouTube now. The videos on the other semi-finals, as well as the final, as well as a look at how the Springboks won that final, will be coming very soon. I wanted to still try and get through all the games, but I'm going to work at a slightly slower pace once I've covered the final and the other semi, just so that I can try and get through it and have actually a bit of a nap, because that'd be quite nice considering the World Cup's over and I basically just haven't stopped for breath since about a month and a half in advance. A month and a half in advance of going to Japan and having to get through as much as I did in order to get there. So, from me and Frank here, that's about all. Okay, the World Cup's over. I've got to process that, and I'll get back to you, because it isn't over for me, because I've got so bloody much more to get through. But there we are, rugby.